for the summer. I am so excited about this collection because it is everything patriotic, and I am a huge supporter of our amazing country, and so we're gonna dive in. Now, we have 3 different levels in our maker box. Our sign of the month this month features our waving flag quilt design. This is gonna be so adorable when we finish it, and I think you're gonna absolutely love it. If you are a Maker Club member, you get to have this post, which doesn't look like much right now, but I promise it's gonna turn into something. And then this adorable cutout of the United States with America the Beautiful, which is one of my favorite patriotic songs. The thing I love about this is, while this is patriotic, you might just keep it up for 4th of July and Memorial Day and such. The post is something you can use all year long, especially with our 10-inch swappable discs. So you know how much I love giving you guys things that you're gonna be able to use all year long and not just have to store. So these 2 projects are gonna be great. Now, if you are a Gotta Have It member, you're gonna get a special bonus, and that is this adorable flag banner. And I love this company. They put out some amazing quality things. And so, look at all of this awesomeness. So now this has a little bit touch of the rustic look. So I'm gonna paint all of the collection to match this. Now, if you are not a Gotta Have It member and you wanna do more traditional, please feel free to not go rustic. But I like a little bit rustic vibe instead of just the bright colors, because I think it makes things a little bit more muted. Now, in addition to this, our Gotta Have It members get a mini design. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start with our maker box because that is our main level. So we have, like I said, our America the Beautiful. I'm gonna open up the packaging here. All right, and I'm gonna put all of those pieces just to the side for now. We'll get back to those in just a second. All right, now I'm gonna also go ahead and open up my post. And we'll put those extra pieces and just kind of lay them out. And then you have all of your supplies right here in your sponge pack. So do know that you are welcome to cut these into smaller pieces if you like to use ombres or different colors. This is really easy to just snip these and make them multiple purpose. The yellow sponges you could also wash and save if you like to maintain more collections throughout the years. So I'm gonna start by painting this America the Beautiful in our number 14. It's a really pretty red. To paint, you're just gonna dip, scrape, and then mash all over the board. So you can see I'm really trying to leave that paint nice and thin. I don't wanna get it too chunky just because sometimes it can create some drying issues. I also like to be a little careful towards the edges. And you have 2 choices there. You can paint the edges all red, or if you like the more burnt wood look, you can leave those as a darker border. So if you are trying to leave them, just use very little paint towards those edges. And know if you go over the edge, you can just wipe it with like a baby wipe or a wet paper towel, and that's gonna be just fine. All right, now it's ready for my second layer. I know that summer is busy, so one of the things that we considered while designing this project was to make sure that it's a relatively simple and quick paint, not a whole lot of overcomplicated pieces, and that way it's something you can do while just watching your favorite show and zenning out with a little creativity. All right, now I don't like to sit and watch paint dry and push wet paint around the board, so I'm just gonna simply take this and put it to the side and come back to it in just a second because I'm gonna paint my posts. Now, when I was deciding what to paint the post, if you wanna go really Americana, you could definitely do the navy. You could do black, or you could do American walnut. It really depends, up to you. Now, do keep in mind if you're gonna use that for multiple seasons to make it neutral. So that way you don't have like a bright red post when you're trying to do something really summery. So I'm gonna do a little bit of combination here. I'm gonna do American walnut, and I'm just gonna mash that all over. And when you're staining, you do wanna make sure to kind of keep your lines nice and straight here. If you try and do a lot of whooshing or circles when you're painting, it's just gonna kind of create a mess. I do wanna go ahead and get my back as well. And it's not a bad idea to dry in between layers here, just so it doesn't stick to your paper. So I'm gonna get this layer on and then go hit up a blow dryer. All right, now that I have both sides dry, I'm gonna use a little bit of dry brush distressing, and I could do this with the white or the black. I want it to look a little rustic, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the black today. So to do dry brush distressing, you're gonna use just the top of a brush, get a piece of paper towel around, I always just fold it, and then you really wanna take it and mash off like you're painting everything off, pushing that paint right into those bristles. Once you feel like you have a good bit off, you're just gonna take it, and I like to call these my Tai Chi strokes, and go all the way on, all the way off. If you pick up your brush, kind of like I'm doing there, it's gonna have stop and start motions, so just know that, and you can achieve the look you're liking. I like to make sure I'm really going around those edges, so it's giving a nice worn look, like it's adding a vintage touch. So you can see it's making it look nice and old and vintage here. Just gonna flip it over and do the exact same thing. All right, now I have both sides. I did get a little heavy here, but I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it because I think it adds rusticness. And both sides done here. I'm gonna put that off to the side and just do the exact same finishing on all of the other pieces that came with the posts. So let's go. All right, so I have them all painted, and now I'm gonna go ahead and assemble them so I know which direction I want to distress in. So I'm gonna take these pieces and take the glue that is in your kit. And I like to use the little brush that's included and just put a good amount of glue on there. Not too much that it's gonna poke out the edges because it's not gonna dry clear, so you do wanna be a little careful of that. And then the round piece lines up with the rounds. This flat piece here is gonna line up right on the top. And I stuck it in a little bit of black, but that is, again, just fine because I'm gonna distress it anyways. But fun fact, if you get some paint on your project and you're like, oh no, grab it with a baby wipe right away and it will come right off. Okay. Then I'm going to put these sticks on either side just so it adds a little touch of elegance, so to say. That's resting on the top of each post. Now with these two circles, we're gonna put the little one behind the big one and then glue it to our posts. So little one behind the big one, try and get it mostly centered, and then glue the little one to the post. And that's gonna create our area that we can hang our ribbon. So I like to put this pretty high up on the post. That way it allows me the maximum room for height. Okay, now as that's drying, I'm gonna take my brush and just add a little bit more distressing around the pieces that I added. All right, we're gonna put this off to the side to dry and finish up our America's Beautiful. side as well. Let's get one more layer of red onto this, and then I'll show you how to paint those words, and we'll be done with our Maker Box project. All right, now I told you I wanted to do a little bit of the rustic touch just to be able to match that flag. So I'm gonna take my brush, kind of clean it up just a little bit, and use some of the American walnut stain just to come around the edges. And that's gonna give me a little bit of a worn look. So this is ending up to be a little bit American walnut and a little bit black, but I am loving it. And I'm just doing short staccato little motions here, so it's getting some feathering around the edges. And that red's gonna dry really rich. So put that to the side and let it dry, and let me grab some painter's tape. All right. So I have all my pieces drying, and now I'm just gonna paint my words. I despise chasing letters around the table. And so all I'm gonna do is grab this painter's tape, flip it upside down, kind of roll the edges underneath, push it down, and then I can stick my pieces to it and not have to chase them all over, which makes my life a whole lot easier. And then those stars can just go down, the dots can go down, the eyes can go down, and it makes it easy peasy. If you need more, you just grab another strip, fold it, stick it, and now we're ready to paint. So for this, I'm gonna go ahead and do white. I'm still gonna get a paper towel just so I don't make it really thick and heavy on the pieces, because otherwise they can dry a little chunky. So I'm gonna dip, scrape, unload, and then just hop straight up and straight down over the entire bit of words. Probably gonna do about 2 layers. Let's speed this up so you don't have to watch me. All right, so I'm all done, and if any of the sides or edges did get a little bit extra on there and you don't like it, just a reminder, you can use a baby wipe and just kind of clean it up, or you can use a black marker, but to me, they don't bother me that much. I just get the heavy stuff and call it a day. All right, so I told you I wanted to do a little bit more of that distressing. I took all my pieces off and then I forgot that I wanted to do that. So I'm gonna use my dry brush distress again and just take these and do a really, really light distressing over the words. And that's just gonna help them not be so stark and in your face white, and that way they blend in with my flag just a little bit more. So I have barely any paint on my brush as I'm going through and doing this. All right, now it's time to glue everything together. So I'm gonna take my piece and make sure it's really dry. So go ahead and blow dry it. All right, when I go to glue a big piece like this, I can't stand the patience it takes to do it with a sponge. So I'm just gonna put some of the glue onto a paper towel or a piece of paper. You do have multiple glue pots in there, so if you're running low, just grab another pot. Not a bad idea to keep some wood glue on hand if you're gonna be a crafter, but then I'm just gonna use a white sponge, unload, and I'm gonna take these and just give it a nice dab all over. By putting it on with the sponge, it also makes it even so it doesn't tend to come out the sides. And then just take your piece and line it up on the score marks that you can still see. They do have a little bit of flex to them, so the glue is gonna help it if you kind of push it together. If you do get a little bit of glue that comes over, this is just that same baby wipe, and I'm just wiping it up before it has a chance to dry. Now, the stars, we have space for the stars, but they might not all line up to be the same size. We just made sure you had enough big ones to cover up those score marks. So they're kind of arbitrary. And then you have your sign, all ready to go. Now we just have to hang it. All right. To hang your sign, you're gonna take burlap and feed it through the front, because I like to have my knots on the back. But if you want your knots on the front, you can flip it. Pull it through and just tie a single knot. Then come through the other way and do the same thing. And voila! Now I'm going to take my post, feed it into the groove here, and hang my sign. And voila! You have America the Beautiful. All right, so we have our Maker Box project all finished, and now we're going to do our sign of the month. This is important. This project is really easy, but it takes a little bit of planning or you're gonna drive yourself nuts. So please pay attention to this part. The first thing I want you to do is open it, but be careful and don't move any pieces around. The second thing I want you to do is to take a pencil and label your pieces. The most important part that will drive you absolutely insane is the stars. So I'm going to label across so I know which ones go where. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, okay? That's really important. This is gonna do two things. First, it's gonna remind you what side to paint. And second, when we take them out, we're gonna put them in order so we know how to put them back in. The next thing I want you to do is label your stripes, because that gets really confusing when we pull this apart too. So I'm gonna start with white up here, and then white here, and it follows a trend. This little tiny piece here is red, okay? So from there on, it goes on down. So white, red, white, red, white, red, white. White, red, white, red, white, red. And I started red here because the white merges in. So red, white, red, white, red, white. And then right underneath your stars is a white, red, white. Okay? Now, take this and you can remove the tape from the back. You will be able to reuse this tape if you don't have painter's tape at home. But I like to get fresh pieces if possible because it just sticks better. Careful not to lose any of your pieces. Now remember, we numbered those stars. So I'm gonna put a fresh piece of painter's tape out and I'm gonna roll the edges under and stick it straight down. Pick this up and I'm gonna put my stars in order. So I have 1, 2. Obviously they might not come out in order, so you just gotta lay them out in order on your paper here. All right. Now I have all my numbers in order. And I'm going to then take another piece of tape, and I'm going to put all my white pieces on it. So all the ones that I labeled W. And then last, I'm going to take one more piece and lay out all my reds. All right, this piece can be put to the side. And these two pieces, I'm obviously going to be painting. All right. So I'm just taking a white sponge and dabbing straight up and straight down. It's probably gonna take you 2 layers at least of each color. So just let them dry in between each layers. Work on your blue, then work on your red, work on your white, and repeat. All right, so we have everything painted. Now it's time to assemble. So I have my main project here and I have my glue pots. I'm gonna take my glue pot and dump it out on a piece of paper. Use a paper towel, it just absorbs it really hard and so it doesn't go as far. And we need a good bit of glue. I'm gonna take my sponge, load, kind of unload, and I'm gonna start with my blue big pieces because it's gonna help define the space. And glue on like so. And you want to be generous with your glue, but not so generous that it spills out the sides. All right, we're gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna go ahead and start filling in our other pieces. So, I always like to kind of test to make sure that's where it goes. Then go ahead and add your glue and place your piece. And I do like to make sure I'm working in a chronological fashion. You don't want to put all your white pieces down and then try and add your red because they might not fit. So there we go, just a little puzzle. So I'm just working in order. That way everything's gonna fit properly. And by using wood glue, it allows you to kind of shift it around. This little tiny red piece is the bane of my existence. I keep losing it. So I'm gonna get that in there so I don't lose them. And now we're just piecing it together. All right, now we're gonna be really excited that we numbered these stars because we're gonna know which way they go in. We just have to figure out their orientation. So I know I went across, so I'm gonna say 1, put a little glue on it, and fill it in to its spot. You'll be able to tell why we wanted to do this as soon as you do it because it's already hard enough to figure out which way they go, let alone if you painted the wrong side or anything like that. So we're just gonna pivot it around till we find which way it goes and keep going until you got them all in. All right, so we're on to our very last star. I'm gonna put this in here and then I'm gonna add one final touch. So I have all my stars and my flag here. If you don't want to add that rustic touch, then you are done, but you also have the option to add a little bit of distressing. So to do that and make it match the rest of my look that I got going on here, I'm going to take the American Walnut stain and a paper towel. Dip the paintbrush in there and heavily, heavily unload. Now, especially because I don't want it too bold, I really want to make sure I'm unloading. And then I'm going to follow the arches of the wave so it looks really authentic. So here, I'm just going to kind of give it a little bit of a rounding. And this one, I'm going to kind of come in an overhand direction so it looks like that flag is flapping. Down here is an underhand direction, and then just follow the curve on this one. Now, if it got a little bit more than you want, maybe you just wanted just a touch of it, that's when using a white can be super helpful, because it's going to create a little bit of that blend and soften the striations or the look and make it look really nice and warm and intentional. So now you can see I just have just a little bit of variance there, and we have our 2 projects completed. And then if you are a Gotta Have It member, you have your banner that you can use, and then we'll get to doing the mini. Thank you so much. All right, Gotta Have It members, in addition to your flag, you get this mini sign. We wanted to keep it super classic and not too busy. And so I still want to maintain that rustic element. So I painted everything white. To do that, I just did the white sponge, mashed it on everywhere, blow dried it nice and good. And then I'm going to take my sander block or your little piece of sandpaper and really make sure you're sanding hard. That way all those ridges are smoothed out. Then you want to take your brush, dip it in that American walnut, heavily, heavily, heavily unload. Doing it on a paper towel is better than the paper, even though I tend to misbehave there. And then you just want to come across and give it those nice, just dressing techniques, back and forth, back and forth. And just add it until you like it. You can even vintage up the edges a little bit more, making it kind of look like a piece of parchment paper. And then once you get it the way you like it, you're going to take that blue stencil, flip it over, get it started, and then just roll the white back nice and steep. If any of the blue starts coming up like that, you're going to push forward. Sometimes it helps to crease it, and then peel straight back again. Now we're going to flip it over, line it up, and go ahead and push it down with your hands. I don't like to use a card to burnish it too hard because sometimes it can then pull the wood up. Once you get it nice and pushed down, take that clear and roll it back at a 45-degree angle, just inching it back with your fingers nice and slow, making sure all the blue stays down. And then it's time for our white sponges again. Again, I'm going to keep this nice and classic. So I'm going to dip in the black, scrape, unload until it's really absorbed into my sponge, and then just hop straight up and straight down. It shouldn't be shiny on your board at all, and you do want to build these layers slowly, because if you use too much paint at once, that's when it's going to go underneath the stencil and cause those bleeds. So I'm just hopping along. And then I can choose to do my other colors here. So I'm going to go ahead and add red for the stripes. So I'm going to dip, unload. And I'm kind of pinching my sponge just to make it a little bit easier not to go over. You could also cut the sponge in a smaller slice, and that would be a lot easier as well. And then I'm going to do the stars in navy. That way it really coordinates with everything. Grab my other sponge. Same thing, dip, scrape, unload, and hop straight up and straight down. And you can choose if you want to make it really bold, do a couple layers. If you want it to look kind of distressed, just do maybe 2 light layers. All right, once you have everything covered the way that you like it, simply take a tweezers or a safety pin and get that started. And you can peel it all off. Oh, I am loving this. It's just simple, classic. You don't need a lot of words sometimes. All right, and there's our sign. Let's add it to the collection.